Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use that promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome in. I'm Jay Zawoski with Greg Boyson and Mario Tirabassi here on this weird, snowy, rainy, sleety, windy, crappy Thursday night. I hope you're inside. I hope you're warm. And hope you're here with us in the chat. If you are, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page. If you're a podcaster only, that's cool too. Make sure you're subscribed or following wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. That would be incredibly helpful. We would greatly appreciate that. And a small note to those of us who joined, to those of you who joined us on our takeover of the United Center, the CHGO Hawks shirts, the hockey shirts, are starting to ship out today. So keep your eye on your email and keep an eye on your actual physical mail, and you should be getting your shirts very, very soon. And I am excited to get that. That is a sweet-ass design.
Yes, sir.
Yep, I got the sweatshirt coming. I can't wait.
I got both. And if you can get yours, by the way, chgolocker.com. And as always, diehards save 20% at all times at CHGO Locker and on all of our events. So if you want to become a diehard, all chgo.com to do that, because you get awesome stuff like the incoming rebuild report, which is dropping when? Tomorrow, fellas?
Yes, we'll just say tomorrow.
All right.
It'll be tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Says Kenny Chesney. All right. Well, Mario, hard at work last night as the game ended, stuck around, did some extra work, and put together his big board for the trade deadline. This is the second version of Mario's big board, as we are, about 2.5 weeks away from the March 3rd NHL trade deadline. And that's what today's show is going to be about, because guess what? That's what you all want to talk about. Who are we to say no? If you got any questions, hit us up in the comments, of course. But let's start it off, Mario. Who do you have as number one on the Blackhawks big board? I'm sure it's a very suspenseful reveal here.
Yeah, look, so I really went back and forth on this because for as much as we've talked about Patrick Kane and the issues that are pretty much, I think, very clearly hampering him, I still have him as number one on the on our trade board, just because there still feels like a better than not chance that he could get traded, and he kind of still marginally feels like the guy who's going to still get the best return. But I do think that, from the first iteration of the trade board to this iteration, about 2 weeks time has passed, and a lot's changed in 2 weeks time. The first iteration came out before the NHL All-Star break. And at that time it felt like, maybe there's some potential lingering issues with Kane's quote unquote nagging injury, but he's still the top guy from Chicago. He's still one of the top targets on the market. In the last 2 weeks, a lot of that has changed. I think that the gap between a guy like Patrick Kane and guys like Max Domi and Jake McCabe, that gap has narrowed as far as who's the top trade target for the Blackhawks. But I still think it is Kane. It's since the Tarasenko trade and everything that's come out about, what Kane has said about, his frustrations with seeing that trade happen and not being able to potentially play for the Rangers, with them being his top destination that he would want to go to. I still get the sense that, there are going to be teams interested. I just think that interest is definitely on the decline. So I think there's still value there. But I just think the return is not going to be anywhere near what we thought it was going to be even a month ago. So for Blackhawks fans, I say temper your expectations on a return. And we've talked about it the last two post-game shows. Kane holds all the cards. The ball's in his court. If he wants to be traded, he has to tell Kyle Davidson that. He can't telepathically make that request. He can't, it can't be implied. He has to go to Kyle Davidson and say, you know what, I've been told by my agent, these are teams that are interested in me. These are the teams that I am interested in out of those teams, and I would like to see what could be done to get me to one of those teams. He has to do that. If he doesn't, then Kyle Davidson can't force a trade. And he, as Jay, as you point out very, very often, Davidson sticks to his guns, and he has said that he is not trying to force Patrick Kane or Jonathan Toews to waive their no movement clauses if they don't want to.
Not directly, anyway.
Yeah, not directly.
Making the team as bad as possible to maybe nudge them out the door a little bit, but
sure. But yeah, so it's not Davidson saying like, "Damn it, waive your no movement clause." It's on Patrick Kane. So if we come to the March 4th game, I think they play the Predators that night. If we come to that game and Patrick Kane is on this roster, there's no one to point the finger at but him. If he says he doesn't want to get traded, then that's the reason. If he says he wants to be traded and a deal doesn't get done, I don't think it's for lack of effort on Kyle Davidson's part. I think it just might be the market is not what it was going to be.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, Frank Saravalli, who's one of the best in the business for daily face-off when it comes to the trade market, on his big board of overall NHL trades, he still has Patrick Kane 4th overall, despite everything we've been hearing, despite the injury, despite the will he won't he still has him number 4 and the 3rd forward behind Timo Meier of the San Jose Sharks and Ryan O'Reilly of the St. Louis Blues. Those are the two guys, only 2 forwards ahead of him. Jacob Chikrin, the defenseman from the Coyotes, who is all but traded, is number 2 on his big board. So even with all of that, all of the noise, all of the drama, he's still 4th on the big board. There's still going to be interest. Now, is the return going to be as good? Probably not. But as we've stated over and over and over again, the longer he waits, the worse he makes everything for this. He makes it a harder job for Kyle Davidson. He makes it a harder job for these other GMs who, hey, you could be Don Waddell of the Carolina Hurricanes thinking, man, Patrick Kane would be perfect. He doesn't need to be 100% to be on this team. We already got speedsters up and down the lineup. But I can't sit here and wait till March 3rd to pull the trigger on and hope he picks me as the team he wants to come to. So I'm going to go put all my chips in and get Timo Meier. Those are his waiting affects not just Kyle Davidson, but it affects the entire trade market because there are teams that aren't going to wait around and hope Patrick Kane picks them. Look at the Rangers. Since July, all we've heard about was the Rangers. I said, screw it. We're not waiting for this guy anymore. We're going to get Vladimir Tarasenko. And somebody in the comments said something, Darren Pang, Jay Serio put up there. Darren Pang said on the Real Kuiper show, the reason Kane was so devastated because he had consent to Kyle Davis and thought the deal was in place, but it fell through. I don't know who Darren Pang's talking to.
Where is that coming from?
I don't know. I don't know where that quote is, but if Darren Pang made it, I want Darren Pang to pass me whatever the F he's smoking right now, because there is no way Patrick Kane waived his no trade clause to go to the Rangers and Darren freaking Pang is the only person that knows it.
Well, I just sent a text to the Panger when I saw that from Jay Serio, so I'll let you know if he gets back to me. He's usually a pretty good responder, but yeah, I'm sure that was either misheard. Nothing against you, Jay Serio, but I'm not saying you misheard. I'm saying Darren Pang may have misunderstood what he was told. Because he's the only one saying that. I don't think that's true.
If Scott Powers says Patrick Kane hasn't waived his trade clause yet, then that's the truth, because there's nobody in this town more in tune with the Blackhawks than Scott Powers. And he hasn't said anything. Nobody has said anything. It's not going to be Darren Pang that breaks this news. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, he's got people here, of course, but yeah, that would not be, I don't have anything against Darren. He's a super nice guy.
I don't either.
He does. I just think that for him to be the first one to say that, that's why I'm trying to confirm with him whether or not that's what he meant or that's the information he has. And then if he says yes, then we do some more digging. But that would be shocking to me. I want to share the quote, by the way, that Frank Saravalli had today on the Daily Faceoff podcast about Patrick Kane. He says, quote, I don't think he's necessarily ruled out any places yet, but I think he's still doing due diligence process on trying to figure out where is a fit. A few places have intrigued him. I have a sneaking suspicion that 2, maybe 3 teams will end up on his list. I think one of them, a real possibility, is the Edmonton Oilers. I think he's intrigued about the idea of the Toronto Maple Leafs, although I think they would have less interest in him. I think if someone like Kane puts you on his list, you probably have to at least consider it. I think there are some other ones like that, like with what happens with the Dallas Stars, or what if he says he wants to go to the Colorado Avalanche. You have to at least think about it if Patrick Kane puts you on his list. So, okay. I mean, he seems to agree that there is still a market for Patrick Kane. And then today, The Athletic published a piece on perfect trade deadline fits in their opinion. And the one they came up with was Patrick Kane goes to the Dallas Stars for right wing Dennis Gurianov, left-handed defenseman prospect Leon Bichel, and that's with a third party broker team retaining $1.5 million on Kane for a 2023 4th round pick. So
Bichel
and
Gurianov,
no 1st round pick coming to the Hawks for that. That is a guy who has not panned out in Dallas in terms of a guy who was kind of a higher prospect, but has sort of fizzled out.
Gurianov
and Bichel, who I don't know how high he is on the Stars list of prospects, but
I think he's one of their top 5 or 6 prospects.
Okay. Gurianov, I saw a lot of in the AHL, and very fast, has some talent. He's had some success at the NHL level, but he's kind of, digressed a little bit. I mean, I'd want a little more than that, but if that's the best offer, that's the best offer.
Yeah, take the best offer.
It's disappointing, but you know what? Because Dallas is a weird place because they don't have a 1st round pick this year. The Rangers have that, so we couldn't get a 1st round this year from Dallas no matter what. I'd like a little higher than a 4th round. If you give me those 2 prospects in 2nd or 3rd, it's a little better. But
I think if I read that correctly, the 4th would be going to the team facilitating the $1.5 million.
Right. That's a throw in.
I would assume Dallas is throwing that in, not the Hawks.
So you're talking getting an NHL ready player, a guy that can put right on the roster and right into your top 6. Gurianov would be a top 6 winger here. The idea of Kurashev and Gurianov on the same line, that's intriguing. You've got 2 guys who've got speed and playmaking ability that just haven't consistently been able to find the back of the net. And then you'd get a defensive prospect on a team that's full of defensive prospects. So not thrilling, but listen, at this point, the way this is going down, my expectations are so low, that sounds like a good deal.
If you had said Maverick Bork and Gurianov, I'd be more intrigued. Bichel's, he's a good prospect. I just, like you said, Greg, like adding another defensive prospect, I think is just kind of it could become redundant with where the Blackhawks are defensively with prospects. And Bichel was a pick this year, so he's got time to kind of go through his development path before getting to the NHL if he ever would. So there would be time to kind of wait on him. But I think it doesn't move the needle as much for me. But again, I think that is probably the situation the Blackhawks are going to be in with Patrick Kane, is that we're going to have trades that you kind of trade packages or offers that maybe you just kind of go and if Kane decides to waive his no trade, no movement clause and go, and that's the best Kyle Davidson can do, then that's just the situation that we find ourselves in.
All right, we're 15 minutes in and we're still on number 1, but just real quick. Paul T is in there suggesting the shut Kane down and then re-sign him thing. No. I think everyone's kind of ready to just tear the Band-Aid off and let this thing end one way or another this season.
Yep. I don't want to do this all again. I don't want to do this again next year.
And I don't think Kane wants to do it again. And I don't think the Hawks want to do it again. And I don't think the fans want to do it again.
Nope.
Everyone is ready to move on.
If he doesn't get traded, that last home game of the year against the Philadelphia Flyers will be his last game with the Blackhawks if he's still in the lineup.
Fitting that it would be Philly, right?
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Who's number 2 on your list, not just in general?
Who does number 2 work for?
Number 2 works for Max Domi. Yeah, he's definitely been as advertised and maybe a little bit better than advertised for what the Blackhawks were maybe expecting to get out of him. He was signed here to be traded, and I have no doubts that is going to happen. What is interesting is the constant it's not going away feelings around the league that Domi wants to stay in Chicago. Now, he doesn't have any trade protection on his 1-year, $3 million deal. And I know we say it all the time, and I'm a big proponent of this. Don't fall in love with the idea of trading a guy and signing him the next summer, because it rarely ever happens. But it does seem like the potential for that to actually be a reality with Domi is I give that a little bit more credence, because that is coming from multiple people. Elliot Friedman just recently in his 32 Thoughts written content put that out there. He said the continued expectation is that Domi has a desire to stay in Chicago. He could be traded, and like we've said before, say, you know what, July 1st, you will be one of the first phone calls we make. So, we appreciate all the work you did this season. We're going to try and get you to the best opportunity to go chase the cup. And from then on, if he loved his time in Chicago, I think the Blackhawks would be fine having him come back. For the outsider perspective on Max Domi before he got here, I think a lot of us all had the same idea of just like, you know what, we're not really sold on this guy. He's a journeyman. He's never been a superstar. Seems like someone who could potentially cause problems. And it's, as far as in the locker room and off the ice, seems completely the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think he's a guy that if all the rumors and reports are true that he loves being in Chicago and that he would want to stay, if he's fine doing the handshake agreement to say, hey, I'm gonna I'm fine being traded, get me to a contender, get the best offer you can, and I will not block Kyle Davidson's number over the summer. I'm fine with that. And I think, with Luke Richardson, that was another intriguing piece of the puzzle for Domi to come to Chicago and look like he had great seasons with Richardson on the coaching staff in Montreal when he was with the Canadiens, and he's having a great year for the expectations of this Blackhawks team. He's having a great year. He's leading the team in points. He's kind of solidified himself as like, yes, I can play center in the NHL on a full-time basis. So it's good. I really do feel like Domi is going to get traded, and I would leave the door open to kind of break my own rule and be like, yeah, I could see him coming back next summer too.
With the cap flexibility they're going to have too, they can say, look, we want you to stay too. We like you. We want you to be here beyond this year. But let's say, you hit free agency July 1st and some team's going to offer you $3.5-4 million to come sign there for 2 years. If you allow us to, well, he doesn't have a choice, but how about we trade you and then bring you back for probably $1 million more than you're going to get anywhere else? Because the Hawks have the ability to do that. They've got nothing but cap space. So Max Domi signs a 3-year, $15 million deal. He's happy. He's overpaid. The Hawks are happy. They are closer to the cap ceiling, and they've got a guy that wants to be here to transition into the next era of Hawks history. I think it just makes all the sense in the world. To trade him and then bring him back, and you could probably, I know you can't officially do it, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll call you, July 1st and get it done that day. Go about your summer. We're good to go. All I got to do is add the date on top of the contract, and you could sign it before we trade you. So
right.
I think I really think that's that's an option. It's something that they should certainly consider, because like you said, he's been really good on and off the ice. I'm eating my words about Max Domi. I had a whole different idea of him before he got to Chicago, and he's been really a bright spot, I thought, this year.
Yeah. He's been really good. Saravalli has him 23rd on his big board, actually the 5th Blackhawk as far as in the rankings go. And he kind of says what I've been thinking, that Domi, I wouldn't expect Domi to be moved until like one of the last guys right before the clock hits 2:00 on March 3rd, because I think he's going to be the consolation prize for a lot of teams that miss out on some of these bigger players. Like a team that doesn't get Timo Meyer or doesn't get Ron O'Reilly will now be like, well, okay, let's circle back and see what the Blackhawks want for Max Domi.
Yeah.
Him showing that he could be a very effective center for the whole season. He's been really good at the faceoff dot. He's been a good facilitator. That ups his trade value, I think. And the fact that for the most part, he's been, he's not been a character problem. He's been a great locker room guy. He leads the team in penalty minutes, but it hasn't been like an issue. 34 of those penalty minutes came on those 2 instigator, penalties he got sticking up for Patrick Kane. So those aren't things that GMs are going to go, oh, he's a troublemaker. So, I think Domi gets moved, and then I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I know we say all the time, oh, it never happens where guys come back, but I think Domi is one of those that we could see it. There could be that contract in the top desk drawer of Kyle Davidson just waiting to actually make it official, possibly. But I think Max Domi can be really valuable for a team that needs that bottom 6, that third line center / winger that you can put on your second power play unit and can get you that depth scoring you need. You got to be able to roll 4 lines every night of the Stanley Cup playoffs if you want to win. And Domi is that guy that, he's your top line center here, but on a team like Carolina or the whoever that wants to be in the mix from the Stars. If they can't get Kane, maybe they ask for Max Domi. I almost did it. He could be a really effective player if he's done this well playing on the top line for the Hawks this year. Imagine what he could do in the playoffs playing on a third line against bottom 6 defenders. He could be really a sneaky good trade for somebody.
Yep, I agree. You know what else is really good? Green Ridge Farm meat. I have been cycling through the hams. I started with the Caminito ham, loved it. Then I said, I'm going to try the honey ham. That was really good. This week I tried the smoked tavern ham. They're all really delicious. Get them in your grocer's fridge, but they also want you to know about their famous meat sticks, which are perfect for tailgating, happy hour, and school lunches. They're all natural meat sticks and hardwood smoked for 8 hours, 16 grams of protein per stick. I've been cutting back on carbs lately because I don't want to die at 50. And I've been really relying on the Green Ridge Farm meat sticks as a nice protein-packed, carb-free snack at the end of every night. I feel a little bit hungry, eat one of those, I'm good to go. They come in chicken, Black Forest beef, and flavors like jalapeno cheddar and spicy chili. If you've not tried them yet, do it. They're awesome. They're delicious because they're made from recipes generations in the making. And being all natural, they deliver a fresh and flavorful alternative at snack time. You can get them at the refrigerated section of your Costco. You get like 7,000 meat sticks at Costco, Sam's Club, or in your local Chicagoland grocery store. Saw mine at the Jewels, and I saw mine at the Waltz the other day. Right now, when you order any 3 meat products at greenridgefarm.com and include a pack of those meat sticks in your cart, the meat sticks will be free simply by using the code CHGO at checkout. Green Ridge Farm, simply natural meat.
7,000 meat sticks. That's
a little
great.
It's less than that. It's 8 to 10, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely worth your while. Hey, you know what else is worth your while? A nice game of cornhole. I know the weather outside is frightful. Does that still apply?
Yes.
I don't know. Anyways, soon the snow will be gone, and everyone in the Chicago and Illinois area will be able to get out into the official spring and get the cornhole boards out. And if you need to get yourself a new set of cornhole boards or your first ever set, then might I suggest Chi-Town Custom Cornhole, the #1 cornhole provider for the Chicagoland and Illinois area since 2007. Their signature box style designs can be digitally printed, covered in vinyl, and painted to your liking. The boards come with built-in drink holders because you need them. They are right there in the back of the boards. They come in handy every time you play. Of course, they have the LED lights around the cornhole hole so you can see it light up at night, because you're going to need that as well as the games go long into the evenings on those warm summer nights. And of course, on the exterior of the boards, the handles for easy carrying, you're going to need those as well. It's like a Swiss Army knife, this cornhole board, of everything that you could ask for and need. The handles are on the outside there because they are sturdy, handcrafted cornhole boards. They are not flimsy with that fake sawdust kind of compressed together that you get at the big box stores. No. These are handcrafted, beautifully designed.
You mean the wood of CHGO?
Your words, not mine. Chi-Town Custom Cornhole, they are veteran owned and operated, and they also offer local pickups and can ship anywhere. So if you live right down the street and you want to go pick up your cornhole boards, you can do that. Or if you have a friend who loves cornhole as much as you do across the country, they can ship them over there. They make the perfect gift for weddings, all occasions, birthdays. You can get yourself a nice set of St. Patrick's Day themed cornhole boards if you want for your St. Patrick's Day event. I know that's coming up soon. And of course, corporate designs for your company's next marketing or social event. Then just they're perfect. You got a tailgater or backyard barbecuer in your life, get them a set of Chi-Town Custom Cornhole boards. Go check out their website, chitowncornhole.com, and make sure to follow them on Instagram at Chi-Town Custom Cornhole Boards. You can see all of their fine work and designs and find the cornhole boards that fit your life's needs.
All right, who's up next?
I don't remember. Who are we at? 3?
Or 3.
3. Number 3 is moving up one spot. It's defenseman Jake McCabe. He is everything that every NHL team could ever hope for in a defenseman. And that's my personal.
You like him? We've heard.
Yeah, rumor has it.
Yeah. Look, and the reason I'm putting, well, McCabe is going up because someone else is going down. We'll get to him next. But
Great.
you know, with McCabe, it's interesting because it's, you know, Chychrun and Gavrikov. Those seem to be the two guys as far as defensemen go that are constantly in the headlines. We've seen both of them scratched for trade purposes. I don't think McCabe is going to have that happen. He doesn't seem like someone who would appreciate that. But with Chychrun, I understand why teams would want to get him. He's young. He's a very versatile defenseman. He has term. It's all that makes a lot of sense. Gavrikov, I'm like, what is so special about him? Why are the asking price is a first, a third, and a fourth? Woof.
Yeah, sure. You can ask for anything you want.
I mean, if he had 2 or 3 years left, okay, maybe.
Right. And
he's a UFA.
I get that he's like 2.8 million. So if a team, you know, if Columbus wants to hold on to some of that money, that's great. But like, to me, this is just like Ben Sherratt all over again. Like, just because Ben Sherratt was on the market and people talked about him a lot, he ended up being worth, quote unquote, worth a first round pick. And I'm like, why? I don't get it with Gavrikov. I look at him compared to McCabe, and I will tell you, you have to believe me. I'm taking as many of my biases away as I can when I compare the two. You put him on paper, you watch him. I just think that McCabe is more effective than Gavrikov. They're both on terrible teams. So I mean, you can't say, well, Gavrikov's getting caved in. McCabe is playing with Seth Jones. That's the top pair for the Blackhawks. They have the toughest defensive assignments every night, and Jake McCabe is the only player on this Blackhawks team, which at last check is minus 61 in goal differential. He's the only player on this roster of substance that is that is positive. Like, he's not a defensive liability. So you put him on a team that can, you know, already has a decent defensive core around on the roster, and has a team that's just a contender. You put him on a contender, and he's a guy that's going to be very effective as a second line or a second pairing defenseman. He can kill penalties. He can move the puck well. He's going to put his body on the line to get the job done. Over 100 blocked shots and over 100 hits this season. Look, I think he's a guy that teams can look at if they don't get Chychrun. That I think is affordable. You're gonna have an extra this season, next year, and the year after of $2 million for a guy that's gonna play in your top four. Like, I don't see the problem with that, and I especially on a comparison to Gavrikov, I think he's the better option. So
especially,
I think it's gonna happen.
Like if the Hawks are going to take half of his salary too, which is on the table, you're getting this year plus 2 more of Jake McCabe for $2 million.
Yeah.
That is a no-brainer. Like, the only thing is I wonder if people are worried about his back because of the surgery he had this offseason, but
it hasn't been a problem.
It hasn't been a problem at all. He hasn't missed a beat. He's been better this year than last. He's a totally different guy. And if I wrote about it earlier this week, I'm not trading him for less than a first. If a team's like, we'll give you a second, no, then I'm not moving him. The Hawks don't have to move him.
No, they don't.
No. So yeah,
McCabe has better stats in almost every category than Gavrikov. Way more hits, way more block shots. He's even got more points than Gavrikov, and he gets 2 more seasons. And McCabe is 6th on Saravalli's big board, 1 spot behind Gavrikov, which I still don't understand. But Saravalli says that the Blackhawks are getting more calls on McCabe, Lafferty, and Connor Murphy than for Kane and Taves. Obviously, the biggest reason is because Kane and Taves aren't officially on the market.
I can believe it.
Right. But I mean, and as he says, you are not going to find a UFA on the market this summer at a better price than 2 years for McCabe at $2 million per if the Blackhawks retain their salary. That makes him valuable.
Guess what? You're not going to find a better free agent at $4 million per than Jake McCabe.
No. So he lists the Kings, Oilers, Penguins, Bruins, and Maple Leafs as just a few of the teams interested in him. And his style of hockey is made for the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Bruins are also being rumored as the top front runner for Gavrikov as well. So maybe if they miss out on him, they swoop in and get McCabe, and we'll see, what happens there. But it's those extra 2 years at $2 million per that makes him attractive. If he was just a rental, and I would say, yeah, there's no way he's getting a first round pick. But it's those 2 years at like double league minimum. He fills a lot, and then those teams that need that need defensive help, they don't have to spend any more money on the free agent market. They can plug other holes with the money they're saving on McCabe than the $7 million they would have had to pay for a free agent in the summer.
Right.
Yeah, Kalen says the Penguins first will be perfect since it'll be high teens or low 20s. It's a good point. And that's the other thing that Kyle Davidson needs to do is if a team says we're going to give you a first, another team says we're going to give you a first and a fourth, but that first is 15 versus 30. Well,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You got to make that consideration. So
yeah, you have to think about it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, number 4 on Mario's big trade board.
Well, the last thing I was going to say about McCabe is he does have a 7-team no trade clause, but that has all but been confirmed by, I think Saravalli was the one who had it. It is 6 Canadian teams, not including Toronto.
Right.
So that is interesting. Yeah. So we don't know who the 7th team is, but at least 6
Buffalo.
of them. Maybe. Yeah. I mean,
go back to Buffalo.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he left as a free agent. So if he wanted to stick around, he probably could have re-signed there if he wanted to, but chose to keep
wear white breezers.
Just who would? Okay, number 4 is the guy who is moving down, and that is Jonathan Toews. The only reason he's moving down is because we haven't seen him since the All-Star break, and it seems very evident league wide that there is a lot of concern about that. Early on, when we got back to practice right after the All-Star break, and he had the non-COVID illness, it was booked as the flu, and we expected him back in a day or two. I haven't seen him since. He's been put on IR. Doesn't appear like he's going to join the team before they come back home to play the Maple Leafs again on Sunday. So I don't know. It's definitely back of your mind. It creeps a little bit more to the front of your mind with what he dealt with that caused him to miss the 2021 season. Could still be a factor, and I think that's going to definitely cause some teams to double and triple think about what they look at as options for Tays. When he's been fully healthy, he's been okay. He had a hot start to the season, but definitely has cooled off. He's not a guy that could be your number one do-it-all center anymore. That's very clear. But if a team wanted him to be their third line center, play a little bit of penalty kill, he's not going to have to play 18, 19 minutes a night. He can play 15 or 16. Win you important faceoffs, like that's very valuable to a contending team. I just think that the health concerns are coming at the worst time for the Blackhawks and for Tays. If he desired to be traded, it's going to be difficult to kind of overcome that. If he's going to be traded, one, he has to ask to be traded, but two, he also has to get on the ice. Like he can't say like, oh, you know what, like I would like to be traded, activate me from IR, whatever, blah blah blah. Like he's gonna have to get back on the ice to kind of prove around the league that, hey, like I'm fine. I can be back playing. Don't worry. I'm still valuable, all that. Like he has to do that, and he's running out of opportunities to do that.
Here's what Frank Saravalli had to say about Taves today, again from the Daily Faceoff podcast. He said, quote, I don't want to say it's going to be a long shot to trade Jonathan Taves at this point, but that's what it's starting to feel like. He's missed so much time, 6 games now with this illness. His last game is January 28th, today for the record, February 16th. He's not joining this team on the road trip to finish off the trip versus Ottawa. Given the fact that he did miss the entire 2021 season with the long COVID-related illness, teams are concerned. I think they were already mildly concerned or had raised an eyebrow about his condition. But, geez, there's a team that told me that they believe Jonathan Taves weighs 240 pounds right now.
Where's he hiding it?
Pre-illness. I think that raises some real eyebrows. His play has already deteriorated a little bit. If he's not 100% or won't be, that makes an already difficult situation maybe a little harder to trade. So the weight thing, if we rewind to the preseason, this is something the three of us were told individually by someone that Jonathan Taves came into camp heavy and fat. 200 pounds is Dustin Byfuglien sized.
I'm going to say that I have stood next to Jonathan Taves. I don't know where he is keeping these 240 pounds because nothing would tell me that he is over, much over 200, maybe in the 210s. 240. I mean, that's like Seabrook, and he's nowhere near that.
He's not
at least visually.
Yeah,
at least visually.
Not if he's had the flu for 10 days.
Oh yeah, doesn't have it anymore. But I will say that seems high. Maybe it's a metric weight. I have noticed when he sits, there's a little bit of a tummy there that we've not seen before from Taves, and I give him the fist bump mentally.
Sure, but I mean,
one of us.
He's 36. It happens to us all.
Yeah, exactly.
34.
But 240 seems high.
It really does.
But the out of shape, the conditioning thing has been something we've heard since before the puck even dropped on the season.
Sure.
So we can't completely dismiss it. I think 240 is excessive. But
yeah.
I do think he's playing a little heavier than usual. And I think maybe he felt like in years past he was a little too easy to move, a little too light on his skates, and he wants to play a heavier game now, which apparently he's doing.
Yeah. Taves has gone through different fluctuations in his playing weight depending on how he wants to play, and it's been visual. When he was like, I need you to get faster, he looked like a slimmer, trimmer Jonathan Taves. And then when it was like, oh, I'm getting pushed around too much, he looked a little bit more solid. But yeah, I don't think this is anywhere near 240. The conditioning, I think, also can be attributed to the way his body responds. nowadays. It might take him, the gas tank might take an extra little bit of time to get back up to full between games. And, we've seen him take some maintenance days this season, which is not too out of the ordinary for a lot of these guys. But, for Taves, you look a little bit more closely at it now. But yeah, I think the conditioning, with the what his body went through, it's not surprising that there would be some conditioning concerns. But if he's healthy, he gets back on the ice, goes to a team, like I said, that he doesn't have to play 18, 19 minutes a night, the conditioning becomes maybe a little bit less of a concern if he's only playing 15 or 16.
Couple comments I want to get to regarding Taves. First, Anna, who I don't think I've seen in the chat before. Welcome, Anna. She says people with autoimmune conditions have compromised immune systems, thus resulting in getting over a virus and even the common cold much longer than a healthy person. Yeah, that's true. And look, like we said this a couple, maybe it was last night, maybe 2 nights ago, even if it's not an effect of this, like Frank Saravalli said, teams are looking at this like the guy's missed almost a month with the flu. And it makes me think, is this guy going to retire? Like after having this sort of an experience, recovering from a common illness like the flu, if that's indeed what it was, he's got to be looking at himself saying, why am I even doing this anymore?
I don't get the sense that he's going to retire because he says, I don't want to. I could see, if he doesn't get traded, maybe he signs a 1-year deal with the team in the summer and just kind of plays it year by year, just how he feels physically. But I don't think he's gonna retire after this year. If he does, that's his decision. And you want to say that you want these professional athletes to look out for themselves and their health. So if he comes to that decision, then that's you say thank you for everything you did in your career. But I would be surprised if he did.
And Huggy Bear says he would love to see Taves re-sign a 3-year, $4 million deal. And I think an offer like that might solve his stress concerns. He doesn't want to leave. No, I don't. You can talk me into Kane for another year or two. I'm ready to move on from Taves. Like, what does that do for you? Because you say like everyone's talking about like a couple nights ago. Like, oh, he brings leadership. No, not really. This team still sucks. Like, you know what I mean? They're not willing them to victory. Patrick Kane showed zero leadership in the game against the Leafs, in the game the night before, they just against Montreal. It's just that is something that fans overblow. I think it is time to move on. I think it's time to move on from both, but especially Jonathan Taves.
Yep, I agree.
I think there's avenues in which that they both could come back and sign deals to retire as Blackhawks, but I think a lot has to go into it, and part of it has to be you guys got to accept lesser roles. Like you would have to accept, obviously not contractually, but like they would have to be under the assumption, like, you know what, very soon, if not next season, this team is no longer the Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane show. It's moving on. You can be a part of it. You can hang around. You can chase records. You can only play with one team for your career. You can, be a presence in the locker room to show these young guys the way, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But it would have to come with like, you guys are no longer the poster boys, which I don't think would happen.
Right. I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm not interested in any of that. I'm ready to move on. And if Taves wants to get his trade value anywhere, he's got to play again and be productive. And as far as the retirement thing, I think he's a guy whose head and heart wants him to play a million years, wants him to be Jaromir Jagr. But I think his body might be telling him, hey, buddy, might be time to think of something else.
And he seems like a smart guy. He seems like a guy who, loves the off the ice intricacies of hockey. Whatever he wants to do, I think he's going to have the opportunity to do it post-career, whether it's in or out of the sport. I would think once he wants to get back into hockey, whether it's right after retirement or take a few years off, whatever, I think he'll be able to find his way.
Yep.
Let him go. Let him go play a final season in Winnipeg, because everybody wants to play in their hometown.
Sure.
Yep. You can only play for your hometown.
That's right. True.
All right, what do we got next?
We are at number 5,
Yes.
right? Number 5, I have Sam Lafferty because where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And the smoke surrounding Sam Lafferty has definitely increased over the last couple of weeks. I'm on the fence of if he gets dealt, for the fact that it seems like the asking price is going to be relatively high for what you would expect for Sam Lafferty. But I think that's what the Blackhawks have to do. If there are teams that are going to be sniffing around some of these guys that are, thought of as like, oh, we swung and missed on XYZ, so now we're down to guys like Sam Lafferty. You're going to have to make it worth their while because, as we've said before, Jay, I know you've hammered the point home in your Blackhawks beat pieces before. You don't have to just trade guys just to get whatever you can for them. There's no necessity in trading Sam Lafferty unless the reported asking price of a second round pick or equivalent prospect would be available. Unless that's going to be met, you keep Sam Lafferty because he's a guy that Kyle Davidson brought in 1-for-1 for Alex Nylander. And congratulations to Alex Nylander on being an AHL All-Star, but he has played 0 games in the NHL since being traded for Sam Lafferty. And Sam Lafferty was extended at $1.15 million. He's not wasted money whatsoever. And he's a guy that plays the way that Kyle Davidson and Luke Richardson want the Blackhawks identity to be. So unless you are blown away by a deal for Sam Lafferty, there's no reason to get rid of him. I do think there's going to be teams that want to see what they can have to give up for him. He plays a style of hockey that can translate pretty well to the playoffs. He's high energy, high motor. 99 times out of 100, he's going to be noticeable on a shift. So I think he's a guy on a contender that could play in a third or fourth line role, bring some energy, bring some speed, bring some tenacity, and teams definitely value that this time of year.
Yeah, I think the question you have to ask yourself with him and a lot of these guys we're going to get to here quickly before we wrap up is what are the odds of this draft pick being a better player than the guy we're trading? And they're asking for a second. I think they'll get a second because there's so much interest in him. And like we said, all the time around, this time of year, teams get crazy and they do crazy things out of desperation. So I think you'll get a second. If you don't, you don't, right? Because what are the odds that the third round pick you make, even in a pretty deep draft, is going to turn out to be as good of a player as Sam Lafferty? That's a risk. That's not a sure thing. It's not a first. It's not an early second. That's a third round pick. And those are pretty, you're getting to like coin toss territory in that point. So, that's why I just don't think these guys who have more years under contracts should be in no rush to move them just because. But if a team's going to blow you away, by all means.
Yep. Kyle Davidson has all the leverage in a Sam Lafferty trade negotiation because he doesn't have to trade him. So the reported as a second round pick, you don't get it. You hold on to him and you have a real nice player for next season.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Easy. All right.
Get a second round pick for him next year.
On to number 6. We should probably rifle through these because we only have a few minutes left. So you have 8 players on the list here.
Yeah.
Why don't we just go through them boom, boom, boom real quick here?
Number 6, I believe, is Andreas Athanasiou. He is on the same he was brought here for the same reasons Max Domi was, to be flipped at this time of year. He hasn't had the impact that Domi has had, but he's still a guy who who he is. He's very fast. He's very aggressive with the puck. He does have some hands, some creative ability offensively, but his finishing has never been his best part of his game. So he's a guy that can burn a lot of players. It's just, what does he do when he gets behind them? If you get decent value for Andreas Athanasiou, that's great. I don't think he needs to just be shopped for nothing. Maybe he's a guy that if he's not traded because the deal's not worth it, maybe he's a guy that comes back on a 2-3 year deal at $2-3 million. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But I think there's definitely going to be interest in him. If again, you don't want to set the bar too high to where it's like, oh, every phone gets hung up. But if you can get a third round pick for him,
Oh, I'll take that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'll take that in a heartbeat. And I know we're saying I just said what are the odds it's a better player. The difference is this is the last year of the deal. So if we were talking about Sam Lafferty potentially hitting free agency and getting nothing in return, okay, talk to me about a third or a fourth, which is the case with Athanasiou. That's not the case with Lafferty. If someone's giving me a third or a fourth for Athanasiou, I'd take it and run because you can always bring him back.
Yeah, or you could find a guy that can play, can play that way, play his minutes, and not have to, not have to worry too much about making sure he's in the top 6 or anything like that. Like you can find a guy that can play like that.
I saw he said it was an honor to play for the organization today, which is cool. That's nice to hear. Guys do I know it doesn't seem that way, but guys still want to play in Chicago. I know it's not as appealing as it was during the dynasty, but if you're a player that the organization deems important, boy, do they take care of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Next up is
number 7 is
Connor
Murphy, or as I like to call him, Jake McCabe Light.
Yeah. Great value, Jake McCabe.
Yeah, he's got more term. He's got an extra year than McCabe does at just 0.4 million more per year. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of chatter around Murphy, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it comes out of nowhere that, hey, Murphy's been traded and McCabe doesn't. Like I could see that happen. I think, again, Connor Murphy, because of the affordability of his deal, because of the way he plays, because of the term that's on his deal, like you're gonna want to make it worth your while because Blackhawks don't have to trade him. And he's a guy that, on the flip side of talking about, good in the locker room, good leader, he's a guy that fits that mold. Like he's a guy that is, a really good example of, if I have young players coming in, young defensemen, especially like the Blackhawks have, I want them hanging around Connor Murphy and learning the ropes of what it means to be like a true professional in the NHL. There's a reason he's part of the leadership group, and if he's not traded, I'm completely fine with Murphy being on this team because there's roles that he fills on and off the ice.
If Kane and Taves are gone and he stays, that if they choose to have a captain next year, that could be the guy.
Yeah, it could be.
Like he checks all the boxes. He's not a superstar, but captains don't have to be superstars all the time.
No.
And Nate says Murphy's had a healthier career than McCabe, correct? Not necessarily. Murphy's had like a lot of recurring and nagging back injuries. McCabe had back surgery, but it hasn't been like a chronic thing for him. McCabe has had bigger injuries, but Murphy has had kind of the nagging things that don't really seem to go away or get better as your career goes on.
He's also had some concussion issues, I believe.
Yeah. So I think that the comparison of Murphy is just not as good. McCabe is very valid, Yeah. But I don't know. It's weird. There just seems like there's no chatter around Murphy.
I think it was more intense at the beginning of the year, and I think it's cooled off as the season's going on. And honestly, at the beginning of the year, I would have thought Murphy and McCabe would have been like this. Like Murphy had a higher chance. It's definitely shifted for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, who's Mr. Irrelevant?
Year might be a problem.
Yeah, it's
true too. Yeah,
I mean, you definitely look at it both ways. Like that is a longer term, and some teams might not want to be locked in that long. But for a cost-controlled guy who can consistently play in your top 6 and be effective for 3 years, like the biggest if is if he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, it's worth it.
Well, I just saw today. Like, here's a good example. You're a team that you think you're pretty close to being pretty good again, and you want to bring in some veterans that can help solidify things. I see Detroit signs Oli Mata today. Re-sign it. I think it's a 2-year deal.
2 year, $3 million per.
Why wouldn't Detroit try to trade for Connor Murphy? To me, that makes all the sense in the world because that's a team that theoretically should be taking that next step into the playoffs and really, and their window is starting to crack open again a little bit. Connor Murphy is a hell of a lot more intriguing to me than Oli Mata. I mean, the Hawks traded for Oli Mata and people laughed in their faces. Now Steve Yzerman does it and it's like, what a brilliant move.
No, Mata wasn't bad when he was here.
I agree with you, but people freaked out like it was the dumbest move in the history of hockey.
Yeah.
Didn't Olimata lead the team in points during that bubble playoff series, or he was up there? He had a couple of goals. I remember that.
He turned it on.
Yeah. So
one thing that I will say about Murphy, that kind of goes to the point that you guys bring up, that I thought was interesting. Today I saw, I believe it was Bruce Garriock with, I think he's with, I can't remember who he's with.
Yeah,
I know he covers Ottawa. I can't remember what the publication.
The Ottawa Sun, I think it is. Yeah,
is that what it is? Okay. He said that the Senators were looking to add a defenseman, and maybe okay. If do you want Connor Murphy? Like I'm, that would be. I think that would be interesting because I don't know the intricacies of the Senators all that well. But if you're looking to add a defenseman as a team that is going nowhere, why not take a guy who's cost control for 3 years and is a proven NHL veteran? Like,
could the Senators be like the Devils? Remember the Devils for a couple years in a row were like, they're going to be the team that really takes a big jump this year. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. Then you didn't hear about them. And then this year, boom, big jump for the Devils. Maybe. Ottawa's been that team with they kind of won the offseason 2 years in a row. And they have not had the success. Is that a team that could be poised to take a step next year? Maybe.
But we thought they were going to do that this year.
Yeah. And if you don't have DeBrincat next year.
Well, Dorian said they're not trading him.
Okay, but that doesn't guarantee that you sign him.
I know.
I don't know.
It's got to be scary to Dorian.
It's
he shared his fake phone call of the trade.
Ask Columbus how. Yeah. Good trading Temi Panarin worked out for them.
Yeah, not well. All right, let's get to Mr. Irrelevant here. Who you got last on your list?
Mr. Irrelevant. The first iteration, it was Alex Stalock. But as we kind of talked about last night with everything that's happened with him, injury wise, and the ocular dysfunction he is currently dealing with that's kept him off the ice. I took him off the board because he's not going anywhere. But I did throw on a name that I've seen mentioned a few times in our chat over the last few weeks, and a guy that I think is playing well. And I don't, we've said it on the show before, like, hey, we don't really talk about him all that much. Taylor Radish. I think he's a guy that is barely above league minimum when it comes to his cap hit. He's signed through next season. He's proven that he can be a decent NHL middle six scoring option. He doesn't jump off the page, but I think for a team that might be looking for something on the bargain bin, if they could go to Davidson and the Blackhawks and say, hey, tell us what it would take to get a guy like Taylor Radish. I think that is a guy that might be a very dark horse move, but I think if a team is willing to come forward and offer you something of consequence for Taylor Radish, you definitely entertain that option.
I was thinking about this when I read the piece this morning, Mario, and you can do it too at lchgo.com. I wonder if the league has caught on to what Radish is doing here. The Hawks are really on the pay no mind list for the league, as they should be. They're terrible. The only thing anyone cares about is the trades. Fine, understandable. So I think Radish has really flown under the radar this year. Let's imagine here, if Kane and Taves are gone, and if the Hawks get Connor Bedard or Adam Fantilli, and Taylor Radish is your top line winger with one of those guys, he's going to get a lot more exposure next season. He'll probably have a bigger output because he's going to have more and more, more minutes and more important minutes with better players. I really think that you could see him make an even bigger jump next year. And then you've got a guy making close to league minimum as an unrestricted free agent heading into the deadline. Maybe he's got more value if he's out there on a bigger stage. Because I don't know if the league has really noticed what Taylor Radish has done.
Yeah. Well, he's on RFA status after.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Which, I mean, hey, there you go. Yeah. You have his rights. Yeah, that's even better. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if his role gets if he's put more into the spotlight next year or at the end of this season, heading into next year. So yeah, I think he's a guy worth listening to offers on if there are phone calls made.
Did I say McDavid? Everyone's saying Connor Bedard. I might have said the wrong name.
No, that just happened. You said Connor Bedard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say Connor
Radish is Radish is not a guy I'm shopping because you got to have somebody playing. And as you said, Jay, he could be a valuable player coming up. But if somebody calls me and gives me way more than what he's worth, I take it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I just think that you can afford to be paid, like we talked about with Lafferty and on and on and on. You can afford to be a little bit patient, but if someone's going to get dumb, by all means, get dumb. It sounds awesome. All right, we are out of time, believe it or not. And before we wrap up, we want to remind everybody that DraftKings Sportsbook is the official sports betting partner of CHGO and All City. Sign up and use that code CHGO. They've got the NBA No Sweat same game parlays, Major League Baseball right around the corner. I think there's like spring training games next week. Let's go.
All right.
I need to get my my winnings rekindled. I got to start betting against the Hawks to score first again. I got to check back on that bet because that was free money for a long time for us. And remember, you download that app right now. What's that?
So it's getting back there. They've given up the first quite a few times lately.
Yeah, 9 seconds it took you last night. I'll bet that. Can you bet odds to give up a goal in the first 30 seconds? That'd be fun. You get my bank back quickly that way. Anyway, download the app now and sign up with the code CHGO. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See these show notes for details.
And no matter who gets traded before the March 3rd deadline, there are only 3 home games left for the Blackhawks. So if there's a certain player you want to see for possibly one last time, my advice to you is head to Game Time, the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. You can buy the seat that you want to sit in, whether it's behind the glass, behind the benches, 200 level, 300 level, wherever you want to sit. Game Time makes it possible. And they also have the biggest last minute price drops on the seats you thought you could never buy. You will not find a better deal on Blackhawks tickets this season. And just in case one of those imitation sites out there has a lower price listed, let Game Time know and they will match it. Guarantees the lowest price. And if you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. And the best way to support all of us here is by buying your tickets through the link in the podcast description. If you're watching live on YouTube, scroll down, smash that giant thumbs up for us, please. And thank you. And then you'll see that link right under there. And if you're listening on any other podcast format, you'll catch the link to Blackhawk tickets right there in the description. So please click on that and come say hi to us. Well, we can come walk up to the top of section 319 and say hello, and we'll very awkwardly say hello right back to you. And join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events.
That game on March 2nd, which could be the last game for many Blackhawks, $11 on Game Time right now. And that's against the Dallas Stars, so maybe Patrick Kane gets traded to the Stars before then.
Oof.
And you can go see him there. How would that feel? Oof.
They play their last 2 games before the deadline are at home against Vegas and Dallas.
Yep.
That's interesting.
There's definitely a chance. All right, we are going to be back with you tomorrow night after Hawks and Senators. About 6 o'clock or 6:30 tomorrow, fellas? Top of my head, I don't know. It's in the 6 o'clock hour. Yeah, so
I think it's 6.
Yeah, so we got on the other night, like right around 9-ish we should be on. So as soon as the game ends, we'll be there. Make sure you join us there in the post-game show because we love doing them, and we've got a bonus spin on the wheel tomorrow, so you're not going to want to miss that show.
Prospectwatcher.com.
Yeah, there you go. It doesn't roll off the tongue as much as Tankathon.
No.
But it serves the same purpose. And reminder, CHGO is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. We're going to wrap things up. For Greg Boyson and Mario Tirabassi, I'm Jay Zawaski. Thanks to Joey for running the show today. We appreciate you, buddy. And we'll talk to you tomorrow on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.